February the 25th, 2017. Guys, you're looking at Navy images from a few years ago, and notice, I know it's hard to read, but the last, it says at the end there, H-A-A-R-P or Haarp. These are images that are roughly 4 to 5 seconds apart as they were superheating the ionosphere from this 30-acre array of Haarp antennas in Alaska, very close in northern Alaska. Now, again, what you're seeing as it gets brighter is when through these 4 and 5 second increments, they increase that power. You got 30 acres of arrays that are 70 feet tall, tremendous amounts of power being fed into them, and they're heating a spot in the atmosphere. Again, these are Navy images capturing what was going on. Now, as this happened, the reason I found these was because I had captured it looking at a webcam over Mount Redoubt, which is a volcano in Alaska. They have a webcam, and we were watching for activity during that period from there and Kamchatka, Russia. And this appeared in the webcam, and I captured it in 2013. And what it is I didn't know at this time. This was one image, and I don't know if it was one plasma ball moving so fast that it caught it in the skips, or were there multiple plasma balls? I don't know, because these webcams sometimes will update every 60 seconds. They're not exactly live feed. But anyway, this image was up when I went to Mount Redoubt. So as I did research, I found the images from Haarp that we just saw, which is in this very same area. Now, what you got to realize is Haarp, as it shoots out this energy, it can direct it anywhere. It does, and it can reflect it back down. And I went in and, at that time, back in 2013, and colorized some of these images. And the reason I did that was to see if it was a flat surface that we were looking at, or was it a three-dimensional like a cloud. And you can see that you've got bright areas on the right and shadows behind that. So you had an actual plasma ball. That's what we're looking at. That's what the U.S. Navy called it. And it came from Haarp, and it was one of their experiments that they were photographing. Again, as I picked this up over Mount Redoubt, I colorized it to kind of match and see what we're dealing with. And guys, it looks like mini suns, like extremely hot plasma, which the sun is helium, hydrogen, different things like that. But let me pull this up. Again, just one of the images from 2013. And you can see arcs just like you would see in a coronal mass ejection or a filament release, or we see some of the prominences that ride across the surface of the sun. Notice on the right at about 3 o'clock, right there, see that arc? And you can see that it's not a flat image. You've got a lighter side on the right from where the energy is coming from Haarp, a cooler side on the back side. But it created this plasma ball of energy. Again, it's like a mini sun. Now, many have blamed Haarp for different things, earthquakes, volcanoes, and I've read technical data that said, even though Haarp says this is to see how this will interfere with GPS satellites, possibly as a weapon of war, or how it will affect radio frequencies. And now Scientific America is saying they're cranking it back up. They shut down in 2014, but this week, during this eclipse, I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but this week powerful radio waves will disturb the ionosphere to probe satellite disruptions and create strange glows. It makes about as much sense as CERN when man starts tampering with this type things. But you're looking at Haarp. These are, notice the size of the power supplies and the trailers on the ground. But you're looking at 22 meters, say, so you're getting up close to 70 feet, 30-acre field with 180 antennas. It says during 4 nights this week, the pole's actually interconnected radio antenna will spring to life after 3 years of dormancy and heat the highest wisp of our atmosphere directly above. Now, guys, what happened in 2014, for some reason, the Navy said, I don't know if they were, you remember we were getting a lot of defunding in the military. but they backed out of the program. But the university there in Alaska kind of picked it up. It says the antennas belong to the High Frequency Active Oral Research Program, or Haarp, a former U.S. military facility near the hamlet of Gakona. The array will beam 21 megawatts of radio energy into the ionosphere, the region that starts at 100 kilometers above the ground, where solar photons, that's light, and it's where the solar photons and the charged particles crash into the Earth's atmosphere. That's where they're going to focus the beam. That's where the radio signals will excite electrons and turn them into waves of relatively hot ionized gas or plasma in a narrow slice of the sky. The hope is to better understand activity that hampers satellites as well as some elusive features of radio wave physics. Whatever. The antenna forest was originally funded by the U.S. Navy and Air Force to improve their navigation and communication signals bouncing around the planet. Since its first transmission in 1999, however, it has been accused of doing much more. Iran blamed Haarp operations for floods. The late Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez charged it with triggering 2010's devastating Haiti earthquake, and legions of other conspiracy theories have accused it of everything from mind control to stealing souls. And we've heard all of this, guys. Unfortunately, some of the earthquakes and things like that we've had back traced to solar flares. But in fact, the only thing the military was interested in controlling was the hot plasma, says Bill Bristow of the University of Alaska Fairbanks, who is Haarp's chief scientist. The plasma can distort or delay satellite transmissions and GPS signals. What a great weapon of war in this time of conflict around the planet. So what they do, Haarp built the world's most powerful ionosphere heater. Think of that. We're dealing with one group in Switzerland manipulating the Earth's magnetic shield, and now we're dealing with ionosphere heaters. And you think about when you have holes in the ionosphere and how long since 1999 this has been going on. It says more than a decade of experiments, however, failed to produce any major breakthroughs, they said. Eventually, the military threw in the towel in 2014. David Walker, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Science and Technology, told a Senate committee, if there's not somebody who wants to take over the management of the funding of the site, let's dismantle it. The pending demise caught the attention of scientists at the University of Fairbanks. We felt there was a large investment of public money that should not be destroyed. So there's a lot of scientific work yet to be done, so we wanted to give it a go. The Air Force eventually handed it over there, but now they're kind of stepping back in. And again, let me point to the tearing down of the military during the Obama administration. It says now, after years of repairs, upgrades, and fundraising, Haarp is about to embark on its first scientific campaign under civilian control. Much of the work is a continuation of studies that began under the military. And the military's there. Don't think they're not. They just kind of handed over the funding and allowed some of the research to be shared. But it says understanding how energy flows from the sun into the upper atmosphere is important for understanding the effect on Earth from extreme solar events. This implies so much that about the artificial auroras that they've created, the unexpected lessons about how gases ionize. But it says the military cannot quite let go of Haarp altogether. The Naval Research Laboratory now thinks it can use the ionosphere to improve spy satellite operations. The lab will be running an experiment where it bounces radio signals off the ionosphere and then back down to the sea, hundreds of kilometers over the horizon. That's what I said. They not only can heat a spot in the ionosphere, they can bounce it down anywhere they want to, just like shortwave radios reflect around the globe. But because the satellites will rely on the facility signal from Haarp and not their own, this method could enable them to stay cloaked from prying eyes and conserve their own energy. In other words, a silent reflector, and picking this bounce back up. But again, this lets you know that they don't just take this 30 acres of array, beam up to one location. They can manipulate that and bounce it back down to the surface. The success of these initial experiments will be critical in demonstrating the long-term viability of Haarp to the agencies funding the efforts along with the Navy. Now, we're going to see more and more money being pumped back into the military as promised by our new president. We will see if this becomes priority. What we're seeing now, and we're seeing it all through politics, is leftover remnants from previous administrations being slowly phased out. Let's put it that way. But it says this, U.S. Fairbanks said it will support the facility for about 2 more years, and it could pull the plug if more sponsors. But for the week ahead, the biggest risk is nature itself. If it's cloudy, we won't see the auroras. We won't see the effects. But going back to this particular image that I caught in 2013 over Mount Redoubt, while they were doing these Haarp experiments, remember they shut it down the next year in 2014, look at these amazing plasma balls. This can be moved. It can be bounced off the atmosphere. The energy can transfer back to the surface of the ocean. You just saw where they're talking about that. So that really coincides with the theory of them being able to put this heat on any place on the planet, causing drought, crop failure, extreme heat, things like that. Massive weapon of war. Kind of reminds me of the lasers in Atlantis. But guys, we're watching it now. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central, 7 on the East Coast, live with Paul Begley Prophecy. We're going to talk about this, the eclipse, many other things, guys. It's always one of the best Sunday night shows on the entire internet, if not mainstream media and all the other news combined. But we're watching it, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.